So I'll say on record, it's a pleasure to finally see each other face to face, even though it's
Yeah, absolutely.
even though we're like 1,000 miles apart. But
I'm a
life is like
little
that.
angry with you, Rokas.
Sorry?
I'm a little upset with you. I'm a little bit angry.
What did I do? Tell me.
What did you do? Don't play coy with me. You have talked to Ramsey Dewey and met with the karate nerd, and in both of those interviews, I never came up. I never came up, despite having done impersonations of you and of Ramsey and of Jesse. I've done you all. You never came up.
I don't know. We'll definitely bring that topic up today. If that makes it better.
I was hurt. I was like, I'm sure I just missed it. And I saw comments, people commenting. No mention of,
Sorry. I don't know why that happened, but there's so much to talk about all the time. So
Right.
I'll think about it next time.
Yeah.
So yeah, how are you? How's life? Maybe you can let the audience know what happened to your arm, so that they wouldn't have to ask in the comments.
Yeah, I'm recovering now from. If your audience doesn't know, which your audience should know, who I am. I'm the guy who did the.
Yeah,
they know you as the Aikido versus MMA guy, and me as the guy who did the Aikido versus MMA guy impression. Which I hope that we can get into, because there's some funny stories about that video I'd like to share with you. But right now I'm recovering. I showed you earlier. I'll show them. I'm recovering from bicep surgery. I had my distal bicep tendon rupture, and I just had my splint off yesterday. So they reattached it about 2 weeks ago. So I'm stuck in this sling for now. No training, no practice.
Well, I'm sure you could still beat the heck out of anyone with your left arm.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I've been trying to figure out things I can do, and I was like, okay, I can kick, I can practice my jab, I can practice my hook. But actually, there's a little bit of damage to this bicep as well. I think I did some things wrong. I was supposed to fight actually next weekend, and I think I did some things wrong in training for that caused this injury. But even just kicking, just doing things with this arm, you don't realize how much you engage and move this arm. Like if you're going to do it correctly, for balance and for extra power, you move your arms. So I'm trying to figure out ways that I can practice at least something while I'm recovering from this.
That's kind of what I thought, even when you said a jab and I felt into the injury and I was like, ugh, that still feels nasty. It's just like, it's still there.
You engage everything. You're doing it right. When I first heard it, getting off the couch, you don't realize that when you go to stand up, that you tense different muscles in your body.
Yeah. Well, it's a lesson. Right now I have a hurt ankle. And I'm still practicing with a pro team, and I realized like I missed out so much, like especially in grappling or even like in wrestling at the cage work. I'm like, oh, I'd love to make a hook here with the foot, or block the guy here, or it's just like so many things.
Yeah, you just got to give it up. Like if you're on your back and you've got a hurt ankle, there's lots of things that you could do, but you just got to concede and just work on the things you can do.
Right, exactly. But it's still a good lesson. Then I learned how many things I could do, or I become more conscious about what exists and how to work around it. So it's a good lesson in a way. So
yeah, it can make you better because you get better at micro things. You get better at small little details of your upper body positioning, and then when you add the lower body in, you'll be much more powerful.
Nice.
But take care of that ankle, man. Ankle's nothing to play with. Ankle injuries are serious business.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I was able to walk already day one. It's just a bit like Terminator 1.
Did you get that shiner?
That's last week. When did I get it? Wednesday. Boxing. It's actually kickboxing, but because of my ankle, I did only boxing, sparring, like 5-minute rounds, 5-minute rounds. And we go pretty light, but the guy caught me on like the right spot. I was like,
have you ever thought about maybe like keeping your hands up when you're boxing?
No, I keep my hands like an Aikido guy. Nah, just you can't avoid the face punch. So one of the things I wanted to make sure I asked you while we are here together, and I'm sure we'll spring off of that into many other things, but every time I have a guest on the recorded sessions, I always like to start with their martial arts journey, because I think there's on one level, as YouTuber to YouTuber, there's so many videos that we're putting out that it's impossible to see all of them for everyone unless they're super geeky. And on the other hand, sometimes we don't even share. Like my story is a lot about sharing the details, but still I don't give out everything. And so I'm curious to know, like, where did you start and how everything happened?
Absolutely, because you're right. So on my channel, that's not a huge part of it. Like it's personal. The channel's about me. Hard to Hurt is about me. I don't make any illusions about that, but I much more am focused externally on, like, the workouts and the techniques and the comedy and stuff like that. Your channel is specifically about you. So anyone that watches your channel should be up to date. You know what I mean? That, like, if you are a martial arts journey viewer, you know exactly why you're there. It's a very specific story, but my story is actually kind of similar to yours. I started in Kuksulwan as a teenager. And what Kuksulwan is, it's really shitty Korean karate plus Aikido. Like, and I guess Aikido, there's wrist locks and very similar to Kutagaish. People were commenting when I did the parody video that it kind of looked like I kind of knew how to do some of that stuff.
Absolutely, that's what I was about to say. Like, even your Okemi looked damn pretty good. I was like, huh.
One thing that we did a lot of in Kuksulwan, we did a lot of break falls, a lot of them, and I was actually better at it than most. That was one area that I excelled in, because I got thrown around a lot. I was always the demo partner. I was the designated guy that the instructor always wanted to throw because I could take the fall pretty good. But I did that for many years. I got my black belt in it. I felt like I was a badass. I felt like I was a real martial artist. I felt very competent. I did some Japanese jiu-jitsu, which the school was pretty good, but it was very traditional. It was a lot of stand-up, unbalancing and very similar types of throws and adding in strikes, and no live sparring there either. And then I became a police officer. We did the defensive tactics, where we trained that all in the gym. Again, no sparring, no live resistance. And then I got on duty, and I started having to fight guys. I started having to struggle to get them into handcuffs. And the majority of what I teach now is stuff I kind of sussed out in the field, like on duty, like, hey, this works when you do this, this doesn't work. And I didn't really find MMA or wrestling or boxing. I'd done a little bit of boxing, but really like actually training at it until I tried to arrest a guy. And I've told this story on other podcasts and things before, so I'll keep it brief. But basically, I tried to arrest a guy that knew how to wrestle. And it was the first time that had ever happened. And I had a hell of a time trying to get him in handcuffs.
Yeah.
And, even once he was in handcuffs, he was able to use his body weight to kind of shuck us around. And we were the same size. He was a little guy too. And then that week, I went and signed up at an MMA gym and actually learned how to box, wrestle, Muay Thai, and things like that. But I come from a traditional martial arts background, and now I train more in modern martial arts. Though I do remember you did a video where you kind of defined when we say traditional martial arts, all martial arts have a tradition. Like, all martial arts have a tradition. So when we take traditional martial arts, your definition of it, you did in a video, I want to say a few months ago, where you kind of defined it before we went forward with the rest of the video.
Yep.
I really liked that. You're saying that where the tradition is like at the forefront of the practicality, where one comes before the other.
Yeah. Right. So there's two ways I could give here now. Well, one thing, maybe I'll look at your story straight away and bring up something that fascinates me, and it's an actively interesting subject for me. Like, some of the subjects I kind of broke down and I was satisfied with the outcome or the answer I came down to, and I kind of left it off, and sometimes I come back to it, but I'm not like actively seeking answers anymore. But there's some where I'm still like, I have like a box of to do. And one of those is police and police training, the way they're trained. So, and I'll be interested to hear your personal experience, because just to give a brief take on what I kind of found out, that in various countries, in various places, the way police is taught, you'd think that it should be taught in a way where it really works, because it is definitely what they will need. But surprisingly enough, oftentimes the way they're taught is similar to the traditional martial arts model, where there's no sparring, and it doesn't really bring the reality in it. So how is it for you? Like, how do you perceive that whole subject yourself?
That's a good question, and actually it just gave me food for thought. But here's kind of what I think about that. The problem is, and police officers hate when younger, newer police officers don't like when I say this. The vast majority of uses of force that they're going to be involved in, their like fights, are with people who aren't really like trying to kill them or trying to hurt them. It's people like giving them a little bit of shit, like a little, like 10% resistance, just like they're trying to put their hands behind the back. And the person's like, no, man, stop. I don't want to, no, stop. Or just like going limp or walking away. So the shit works, you know, you gooseneck somebody and you get some pain compliance and it works. It works in that circumstance. The person's not swinging. Then when the person swings on you and all that fails, no one ever faults the defensive tactics training. That never happens. There's a reluctance within the police community. Now the public is a different story, but within the police community, there's a reluctance to Monday morning quarterback. They don't like to, like if a guy gets in a fight and gets hurt or worse gets killed, they very much are resistant to immediately saying why, what can we do differently. They don't like to talk about that because they don't want to believe that it was avoidable, because that's an uncomfortable truth. You know, like if you knew how to wrestle and knew how to sprawl, this guy wouldn't have taken you down. And if he didn't take you down, he wouldn't have taken your weapon. You know, if you knew how to box, and the converse is true. It's not always about the police officer getting hurt. If you know how to box and wrestle pretty well, and a guy just kind of wants to fight you and doesn't want to go to jail, you don't have to shoot him. You don't even have to tase him. You know what I mean? If you feel comfortable doing that. So it's not pressure tested in the gym because the amount of time devoted to training it is very minimal. For the vast majority of circumstances, it kind of works. Though a lot of the techniques and the principles get trashed, and guys that have been doing it a long time figure out stuff that works. I have a couple of takedowns on my channel that I didn't learn in judo or wrestling. Turns out they were in judo and wrestling. I just sort of figured out that's how, you know, we call them hillbilly hip tosses and stuff like that, where we just figured out, oh, you can trip a guy this way. You know, like kids that do a reap, you know, do the leg trip. They didn't learn it in judo, but they just figured out you can trip somebody like that. A lot of the techniques get scrapped until it comes time to write the report, and then suddenly you're describing techniques in a creative way that sounds like you kind of tried to do the technique, even though you scrapped it. Like the straight arm bar. You know, you always have to kind of pretend that you did try a straight arm bar and it doesn't work, and then you go to your thing that does work. But they don't like to Monday morning quarterback each other. They don't like to admit that the vast majority of uses of force are in that middle area. You've got compliance, you've got deadly force. Most of it's in here, and it kind of, you can get away with a lot in there. If the guy's not actually trying to punch you in the face and he's just trying to get his hand back, you can play ring around the rosy and try to grab at his hand and try to turn his arm and turn his wrist, and he's not punching you in the face the whole time. Then once he starts punching you in the face and all that fails, then you go to a weapon. You go to a baton or a taser or a gun or something like that. So they don't really ever teach police officers how to fight. They teach them how to arrest people that are just kind of giving them some shit about it.
One more part of this is, again, which I'm still actively kind of contemplating about. And I see both sides to it. So again, I'm interested in your opinion. So the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the training, oftentimes these days, like the Gracie breakdown, they really highlight it like, this is it, you know, this is like, this will save every cop. And I can see some of it, but also there's some parts which I'm like, well, it's still not a full package, and it's kind of a both sides thing. So what's your opinion about police officers being trained? I heard in some countries or some areas, that's their main training is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So what do you think? Yeah, like I think in Germany it's a big thing for the police.
I'm a big follower of Eli Knight from Knight Jiu-Jitsu. He has a YouTube channel. He's big on Instagram, and he is one of the main guys who is high level at traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and sport Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and also understands and delves into actual self-defense. Yeah. And it's really hard for Jiu-Jitsu guys that are really good at Jiu-Jitsu to view it from the, like, if you train 2 to 3 times a week at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you are going to probably easily be able to handle anybody. Mm-hmm. Eli Knight was once asked a question, what do you say to people who say that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not the answer? Mm-hmm. And he said, I want to know what the question is. because Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu can mean a lot of things. You know, you can have a top game in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. When people think, oh, BJJ is bad for the street, they're saying, no, pulling guard and looking for an armbar is bad for the street.
Yeah.
Or pulling guard and looking for something fancy flower sweeper is bad for the street. That's true. So the techniques and the ability to apply the leverage and the experience under pressure and getting up from bottom and getting on top, those techniques that's all present in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think there's nothing wrong with the art or the martial art or even the sport training of it for self-defense. Just you have to be conscious of your goal and your mindset, because it's true. If you train too much, I was working the door at a nightclub, and I had a concussion, and I went to throw the guy out. I got a concussion from practice earlier in the week. And I went to throw the guy out, and I lost balance because I was not really at 100% yet. And I fell onto my back and immediately, instinctively started looking for an armbar. I couldn't get the armbar. I tried the triangle. I couldn't get the triangle. And I switched back to the armbar, and I put a guy on the ground in a nightclub in an armbar. That's not and I just held him there and squeezed until I got I went to the breaking point and stopped to try to get compliance. None of that is smart. None of that is smart in that moment. That's not the correct thing. If you are going to apply an armbar in a self-defense situation, it should probably be an arm break. I don't know that throwing a guy out of the club and you fall down, you should break his arm. I probably should have focused on getting up, getting to a standing base, which the techniques and principles for that are present in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's just if your concern is sport and scoring points and not running afoul of the refs or the rules that require you to stay engaged on the ground, I don't think that there's anything wrong with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as an art, but maybe the training methodology should be different if it's for combatives or self-defense.
I agree. Well, if we go back to your martial arts journey, so you were woken up by the reality that the martial art you didn't necessarily help you out so much.
No.
I can see. I know how that feels when you're.
It was helping me win against guys I would have won without it. It was it wasn't the merit of I won. I prevailed in altercations in spite of my martial art, not because of my martial art.
Yeah. And then you exposed yourself to MMA. And what went after? Did you ever go into competing, or did you eventually just build up to starting coaching, or how did that go?
I showed up for my first day of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class thinking, I don't know how to do this stuff, but I feel like I'll be pretty good, I did martial arts. You know how that feels. You knew you would lose, but you thought you'd make a decent showing, and they'd say, that guy, he's done some stuff before.
He's a black belt somewhere else.
None of it applied. None of it. I got bounced up and down that gym by a guy who'd been there for 6 months. I'd spent years and years and years, a significant portion of my life studying martial arts, and got trounced, just absolutely mauled by a guy who'd been there for 6 months. And that woke me up. And I tried really hard to get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm injury prone. It was hard for me to ever make a go of it. I've received and lost stripes throughout the years, but I've never gone past white belt. I've never gotten a belt. I say lose stripes. They didn't take them away like they took off my belt.
Switched gyms and they didn't recognize the stripes. I was what did you do?
They physically came off my belt. My belt's all white. It doesn't even have a place for stripes on it anymore. It's just a white belt, right? I've competed in a couple of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments. And I'm like 3-1 in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I guess, for a record. I've done kickboxing, a couple Muay Thai fights. I'm 3-3 in kickboxing, an even record. I've never gotten an MMA fight because I can't stay uninjured long enough to make a good push through the grappling portion for any of my coaches to feel comfortable putting me in there. Every time we say, hey, we're going to take this fight. All right, let's start training. And I can't stay uninjured. I had neck surgery a few years ago. I've had ankle injuries. Now I had this bicep injury. I can't stay healthy when I'm grappling.
Yeah.
That's just always been the case. So I've had the Street Beefs fights, which were MMA fights. They were MMA rules. But
what is that specifically? Like, what is that exactly you mentioned?
Street Beefs?
Yeah. Forgive me for
Do you
not
not
knowing.
know what Street Beefs is?
It sounds familiar, but that's all I can say.
Don't you do martial arts on the internet for a living?
I actually, you know what? Actually, there's a big misconception about myself. People expect me to know, especially here. You know, I train at SBG Ireland. There's UFC fighters, there's Bellator fighters, super high level pro guys, and since I'm training here full time, everybody expects me to know all the UFC guys, the MMA guys, and even like
Right.
or the internet. When I meet someone, you know, who's into the realm of martial arts YouTube, they expect me to know all the guys and everything. And honestly, I'm mostly concerned about just publishing my own stuff, and I'm super focused on my own journey. And like I know you know, I know Ramsey, I know the ones which are really tightly connected to what I do.
What
But
you're doing,
otherwise,
yeah.
I don't spend my days
Right.
watching what's on.
Well,
So please enlighten me.
Street Beefs is an underground fight club in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And they have a large YouTube channel. They're getting close to 1 million subscribers. And every month they hold, about 20 or so fights on a Saturday.
Okay. Every Saturday?
No, about once a month they'll have.
Okay.
Sometimes they have 2 events in a month, but they'll have like 20 fights that day. Okay. And they match people up that day. Like you just show up ready to fight. If you're 18 and you can get to Harrisonburg, Virginia, you fight and it's in the dirt. And sometimes they have ropes up, sometimes they have a cage up. But yeah, it's a unsanctioned underground fight.
Weight classes, please, or no?
So they have weight classes now. I own the distinction. I think I own the distinction of having the most. I had the last weight mismatch. I fought a guy who's about 210, and I was at about 145. And now they put you pretty close.
How much was he?
He was about 210.
What the fuck? What?
Oh
my God. Sorry.
Yeah. You'll have to check it out. I'll send you a link later. But I had been working on dirty boxing and clinching, and I'd been trying to come up kind of with I'd learned a lot, but I was trying to come up with my own ideas, how things worked, and my own stuff. And I wanted to test it on someone who was much, much larger than me. And there was no way, and I wanted to test it at 100%. So you can't do that with sparring partners.
Yeah.
And you can't get a sanctioned fight with a person that outweighs you by 60 pounds. Yeah. So I went to Street Beefs for that one. Oh, and I fought a guy who was a bit of a wrestler. He had some high school wrestling experience. And it was way more difficult than I thought it was going to be. I thought I was like, oh yeah, I'm trained. I'm just going to walk through this guy. And it was a really good fight. We went all 3 rounds and went to decision.
What was the fight?
I won. He beat the brakes off me in the first round. He got on top, and I couldn't sweep him, and I couldn't get up. And he just ground and pounded me for about 30 seconds straight. But he broke his hand and exhausted himself. So for rounds 2 and 3, I started moving more and kicking him more. And I was able to win that one.
So what was the final decision again? Like you didn't win, did you?
Yeah, I won.
You won? What the fuck? Oh my God! Congratulations. I mean, that's like impressive. What else did I want to ask? It's not bare knuckle, is it?
No, it's MMA gloves. They also do a lot of boxing. They probably do more boxing now than MMA. It's a little smoother. More people want to do it. They attract more fighters for boxing. But they do MMA fights as well. And they also they have another rule style, what they call kickboxing matches. They wear MMA gloves for their kickboxing matches. So it's basically MMA with no takedowns and no grappling. And then they have another rule set that's sort of particular to them, that's similar to bare knuckle boxing. It's in MMA gloves. They call it cage boxing, but they wear MMA gloves, and you can clinch and punch and elbow from the clinch, and you can trip and throw, but there's no ground fighting. So it's a little more, keep the pace up. Not too many guys have gotten into doing that yet because it's kind of a very niche rule set. Yeah. But I want to see more of that. I think that's a really interesting rule set. It's all standing fighting, but with clinching and throws allowed.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, you enlightened me into a new realm of the world, but the world is crazy. So
yeah.
Okay, so moving a bit on from that, so now you're sitting in a gym. You have a YouTube channel. It's rapidly growing from what I can see. So
Yeah.
can you tell how did that come about?
Well, I was doing personal training in my garage. I started in my garage training friends and family as a hobby. And I was holding mitts and teaching boxing and kickboxing and doing weightlifting and circuit training and stuff like that. And then I got some referrals. A girl wanted to learn some boxing, and I started teaching some self-defense, and I started like trying to learn, made sure that my curriculum was actually legit. Like, a big problem in self-defense is, and this is true with a lot of guys, and I was sort of guilty of this early on. There's things that work for you. There's things that you're able to do. The one example I always use is parrying punches. I'm basically Neo from the Matrix when it comes to parrying punches, right? That's just a skill that that's an attribute that I have. There's 100 things that I can't do, right? But I can parry some punches. It would be irresponsible for me to take anyone else and try to like force them into your game plan is going to be around parrying punches and like being Neo from the Matrix, because that's just it's sort of a thing you either have or don't. You can train it to a marginal extent, but you're not going to take a guy who's like, man, I'm just terrible at this, and within any short amount of time turn him into a, parrying, hand trapping maniac. That's sort of the problem with a lot of the guys, is they'll have a niche or a thing or a technique or even a style that works really well for them. But if you were to teach it to a soccer mom, she's not ever going to parry punches. Yeah. She's not ever going to blast double somebody. It's just not going to happen. So I spent a long time putting that curriculum together. Meanwhile, personal training clients started pouring into the garage, and I was doing 35 appointments a week, personal training, one-on-one training, fitness, boxing, self-defense in my garage. And then the HOA started breathing down my neck, and my wife was like, well, let's open a place. So we opened this place here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And now we have a full range of programs. We have adult martial arts programs, kids martial arts programs, group fitness, personal training. And it's doing pretty well. And the YouTube channel, I don't think that this place would do as well if it weren't for the YouTube channel. I don't think the YouTube channel would do as well if it weren't for this place, because both of them kind of create like a proof of concept for each other, even though I would argue that they shouldn't. If you have a YouTube channel and it's a guy in the living room of his single wide trailer hitting a bob, with no lighting, there's no reason that you should assume that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah. And just like there's no reason that you should assume because a guy owns a gym that he knows what he's talking about. The reverse might be true, but that's just the way it's worked out. I've been lucky that this has grown rapidly, and the YouTube channel, it's grown really rapidly. In fact, I was trying to catch up to you and surpass you. I was like, he's so close to 100,000. I was like, he's so close to 100,000. I think it would be cool if I could like shoot up there and get there like right before you. That's what I was hoping to do.
Oh, you have 2 months, man. I'll hit 100,000 in 2 months, statistically speaking. But I will not be surprised if you will surpass me. I am quite a lazy person when it comes to my own content. And you're much more thoughtful and quality driven. So I won't be surprised if you surpass me. Although I have a fight coming up, so all my focus is on the fight. That's why.
You have a fight booked?
Yes, actually today I learned it's 1 week earlier than it was supposed to be, so 5 weeks to go, and I will kick ass. Sorry?
In Europe?
Yeah, not actually Dublin, Ireland, another city in Ireland.
Okay, all right. So I'm excited. I love watching your fight. I was so blown, not to get too mushy or gushy. I felt like there were so many of us there's so many people that were watching that wanted to see you get your ass kicked. That's a fact. Okay. But there are tons of people that watch that. Tons of people, all your subscribers, me, probably every other YouTuber that was watching that and like hoping like, come on. We didn't know what we were going to see. Nobody knew when they watched that. Nobody knew. People are going to say, oh, I totally knew. Nobody knew how you were going to look when that fight started. It could have gone so many ways. Yeah. And you comported yourself so nicely. You were so professional and so disciplined. Obviously, what they were doing with your training program was very smart. They kept you in the pocket. Like they catch you with a specific set of skills and a specific game plan. And obviously the other guys, that was part of the same program. Like it's like two friends, like, so that was destined from the start. They made sure, both training camps made sure that you guys had a good fight, you know, and it didn't become some sloppy, hey, watch two guys that can't wrestle for 15 minutes. Nobody wants to watch that. You know, it looked so good. Your boxing was so good. Your posture and your composure was so good. The kicks were not that good, but everything else looked so good. I think this time around, I can't wait to see what this looks like. Do you know anything about your opponent?
Yes, I do. Actually, I never made a video about it and still think about it. It's just what I was about to say. There's so much focus for me on the fight. I also have some other projects going on the side, like filming projects, editing projects. But so much is going into the training itself that I just don't have the creative energy to make vlogs or anything besides interviews.
Just collect footage, just document, and then when it's over, you know, you can spend a week just sitting down. You should take some time off to rest and heal anyway. And you can really dive into that footage and really, you know, put your creative energy into that. But you absolutely should be focused on training.
Yeah. And the opponent, so this is the first time I'm speaking about this on record, but the opponent is also a former Women to Warrior guy. So he also did that program at a similar time as I did, just in Ireland. And he also lost by split. I don't know if it was split decision. I don't remember actually, but he also lost. And we're about similar size. So we have similar backgrounds in that regard. So
0-1 comes from, and at the same time frame.
Yeah, so we have a similar story in that sense, in that regard. So we'll see.
So that puts the onus is on you. That it's yours to win. You know, that's your fight to win. There's no reason you can't. You know, if you said, oh, it's this guy, he's supposed to be like 7-3 and that sort of thing, I'd be like, well, it's gonna be a tough one, you know. Yeah. But this is really like it's about who trains the hardest and executes their game plan. You or him.
Absolutely. That's what makes it a bit even more scary. Sorry, anyway. So yeah, that's what makes it even more scary, because if it would be like a super tough challenge, I'd be like, well, if I lose, you know, it'll be understandable. And here I'm like, damn, I cannot lose this.
No, it's even. You know, if a guy has you're fighting a monster and you're the soup can, it's, you know, yeah, you got your ass kicked, big deal. You got the experience, that's cool. Or if they gave you a soup can, no, you've got you got an opponent. It's basically both of you guys have a chance to redeem what happened the first time, because both of you, similar circumstances, similar experience level, similar time frame, similar everything. So you're right. That puts the pressure on, because it's scary, because he's thinking all the same shit that you're thinking right now, right? But you got it, man. You've got it.
Okay. Well, I'll do my best. I will do my absolute best. But yeah, so aside from that, what I wanted to say, so after I finish the training camp, I'll probably take a few months off. I'll train, but not like every day for a while. And then probably I'll focus more on my YouTube channel. So we'll be competing there. But anyway, aside from that, coming back to YouTube, quick question, and then we'll start going to other stuff. So how did you start? What made you start your YouTube channel?
Fight Smart Trav's video, the head movement video, how to win a fight with simple basic head movement video. It was viral. It's probably got 10 million views. Okay. What's up, man? I'm gonna be doing this for like another 30. Yeah. All right, man. Clifton Davis, professional MMA fighter, professional kickboxer, one of my instructors. Y'all check him out. Y'all seen him on the channel before. All right, man. Fight Smart Trav did a video a few years ago, many years ago, actually. That thing probably has 10 million views now. It's him going out in public, challenging people to try to punch him in the face, and him using head movement to avoid it. And that video, I was like, that's awesome. And that sort of started me down the rabbit hole of martial arts on YouTube. And I tried to, actually my first attempt at making it kind of replicate something like that. And it just didn't land. You know, when you try to beat somebody else, And then my second, are people being murdered there? What's going on, Rokas?
Oh,
Are
sorry.
you in a,
I'm in the gym, so there's like classes happening and everything. It's kids murdering each other. Nothing special.
yeah, cool.
Normal in Dublin.
Gotta get tougher, right? And then my first couple attempts at videos were just really dry, like technical, just tutorials of technique. Also, not being myself. I was trying to be another fight tip or another Quan kicker or something like that. And I got I got a tooth removed, and they gave me painkillers. And I didn't do drugs really as a kid. I didn't experiment a lot of different drugs. I didn't drink a lot. So when I get like anything, when I take anything now, I'm like, woo! It like really has a powerful effect on me. And I said, I'm gonna shoot a video about how to make a smoothie while I was like high out of my mind on painkillers. And I loved doing that video. Like it was super fun. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna start making more videos. I started making a lot of videos, and I was going about it all wrong. I was having fun, but I wasn't doing anything that was gonna grow my channel. Until I got a message from a guy. I'd done a video, and he was like, man, that really helped me out. That video means a lot to me. And he told me his story and how something I said in a video, like just, and I was like, boom, that's what I got to do. And I said, to do that for more people, I have to get bigger. So you have to do the things in order to grow your channel while also putting in the things that actually provide value to your audience and help people. And you got to do both. It's sort of like I mean, it's fun. I like doing the comedy. I like the attention. You wouldn't do YouTube if you didn't like attention, you know? But you have to grow your influence in order to actually have any influence. So I started being a little more strategic. I started following people that teach how to do social media and how to grow on YouTube. And then I just focused everything, and instead of on vlogging, instead of saying like, hey, this is this funny thing that is happening in my life, I focused more on making sure each video actually provided some sort of value to somebody. And then the channel, when I started doing that consistently, the channel exploded.
Yeah, I'm actually absolutely with you. I feel that was my discovery as well. That balance between providing value, and even when I sometimes, some people ask me like to do like a bit of a breakdown of how YouTube works, and pretty much always I come to introduce the conclusion that you have to be yourself. Like you have to provide your own unique expression. But if it's just all about the expression, probably that will not fly. If it's just about value, also you can work, but also you won't have that following which is related to you. But that mix between value, direct value, and your personality, that's gold. So
absolutely, yeah. I took same since I've blown up. People ask me, people starting out, they're like, "What do I?" I said they come for a reason. They come because they wanted to learn how to check a kick. They clicked on my video because they want to learn how to block a kick or something like that. But if they stay, it's because they thought me and Jay were funny or whatever. You know, your channel, at first glance, it'd be like, oh, it's like a vlog. It's a personal vlog about this guy, right? No. You've helped, whether you know it or not, and you know that you've helped people. But I don't think there's no way, because there's going to be this quiet, silent blob of viewers out there who've never mentioned it to you. There's people, and I know this because I was one of them, that watched Aikido versus MMA. There was a lot of people like, no, well, that happened because that guy sucked at Aikido. If he was good at Aikido, he'd have been able to wrist lock that guy across the room, you know. But there's tons of people that were like, oh my God, that's me. I'm going through that. There are so many people that identified with your personal journey. That's why your personal journey does provide value for so many people. But absolutely, they come for the value, but they stay for you.
Sounds right. I mean, it makes sense. And for me, even like if I make vlogs, in the past, I made my mistakes too. It's all about trial and error, or at least part of it. And then, but sometimes, yeah, if I would make vlogs in the beginning, I would be just like kind of just talking about stuff. And then I realized, okay, those videos are not as essential. It's more about, okay, what's the message? And then how does that message come through me? So yeah, I relate to you very much in that.
Yeah. I've actually toyed. I have a second channel that I've just put a couple videos on, and I want to start doing content about content, like, you know, not necessarily like guruism, but like YouTube strategies, social media strategies, because people are starting to ask now that have a little proof of concept. I don't have the biggest channel, but people are kind of intrigued by the amount of growth in the short amount of time. I've only been really at it in earnest for about 18 months, you know, and we've gotten at January of this year, I was at 5,000 subscribers, and like right now I'm at like 60,000 subscribers. And people want to know, like, okay, how did you do that? And it comes from just what you said, being very trial and error. You figure out what works and what doesn't, and you just keep doing more of that. And if something stops working, then you just correct the course a little bit. I equate YouTube to sailing. YouTube is a lot like sailing. I don't know shit about sailing, but I'm assuming YouTube is like sailing. I call the algorithm the wind. You know, you can have the greatest ship and know the most about sailing, but if you don't have any wind, that ship's not going anywhere. But when the wind comes, you need to be prepared. So that's how you fight the algorithm. You just got to be ready for when it shows you some love. But I noticed that, didn't you say that you're actually helping some other people with their content and like filming stuff and editing stuff for other people?
Yeah, actually, that's one of the reasons. Again, also, my channel is less active these days, is because I'm at SBG Ireland. You know SBG Ireland?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know what SBG Ireland is.
You know, not everybody knows everything. Anyway, but then John Kavanagh, head coach, I'm making videos for his channel these days, and it's only one video per week, but I really put in a lot of production value into it. And I'm helping out SBG Portland, where I trained for half a year, and I had some other people come up to me. So like I'm flying to Canada in 2 weeks to do filming. I filmed a seminar for Jesse Encom, you know, karate nerd. So it's like I'm kind of balancing between doing my own thing and doing stuff for others. But as I said, starting from November, I want to start bringing back value into my own work, because I know that's the main way I can really reach a big amount of people and have positive influence on them, which is what matters to me. So
yeah. Have you thought about or navigated or tried to plan your content at this point in your life is about to take a big part to different territory? Are you prepared, or have you thought about the backlash and the resistance from a lot of your entrenched viewers who, you know, I was a Rokas guy before being a Rokas guy was cool. You know, a lot of your guys that, like, it's funny, your whole channel was born out of like shedding off a previous layer and finding something new, and it should continue to do that. But you know that there will be, every time you gain 1,000 subscribers, you're going to lose like 50 that have been with you for a long time. Have you thought about that?
Absolutely. And I realized, like, even I was aware that through the years I'm doing YouTube, that's one of the reasons I don't have 100,000 subscribers yet, because I have a lot of views compared to some channels. Like I have much more views than Lenny Sly. I have much more views than Aikido Flow guys, but they have more subscribers. And my belief, my assessment why, is because they always did their thing.
Their thing, their content is like this, and you
exactly.
People roll with you for as long as what you're doing applies to them.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
So as you outgrow, but I don't think you have to worry about it. I was just curious what you thought about it, because the idea, sorry you 50 guys, if I can reach and help and maybe at least entertain, but potentially educate or maybe even inspire 1,000 people at the cost of 50, you can't be everything to everyone. And if you're being true to yourself, it's just gonna happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, there were actually a few of those shifts. So I was top third channel, at least on my assessment, like on the Aikido world, when I used to do just Aikido tutorials. And then I said, fuck you, everyone. Aikido doesn't work. So I lost so much, you know, so many people love me. I was invited, people started inviting me to do seminars in different countries and everything. And as soon as I switched, they're like, oh, sorry, actually, we can't invite you anymore. And I was like, oh yeah, it makes sense. And then I switched to trying to save Aikido, and that got a whole lot of following where people were like, oh, I want to see this guy saving Aikido. And then I came to a conclusion that that's not the way to go.
You tried.
Yeah. But then those people are like, oh, damn, now you're not interesting to us anymore. And then it's just.
You didn't try real Aikido.
Yeah.
If you didn't do real Aikido, if you were better at Aikido.
Yeah. Well,
I got that. I've when I did the video about you, there were people that And a lot of people mistook that. And a lot of people thought that it was like mean, that I treated you very poorly, which I sort of did. I was making fun of you, but I was making fun of you. I felt like I don't think I was mean spirited. I think I told you once before, the original draft of that was super dark. It was really dark and really mean. And I tried to approach it in a more humorous light, but the period of your life that I was making fun of, I always say, when he's treating me like I'm being stupid. And it's like, well, were you? There's a possibility you were, you know, like if the joke is that, oh, this MMA guy trounced you, that's what really happened, you know? So I played that up, but it was an affectionate parody in my opinion. And some people assume that if I'm making fun of you, it means that like I've got some problem. Like if the point of the video is that Aikido doesn't work, and in the video I'm making fun of Aikido not working, you should connect the dots that, you know, but I defended you a lot in the comments section of that video. There were people like, yeah, that guy, he didn't do, I was like, no. You misunderstood. He's actually ahead of the game. That's why his parody, your parody that I did of you, didn't even accurately represent who you are anymore. It represented a previous version of you. The parodies that people need to worry about is when I just basically say the same shit that you're saying, just in a funny voice, and people laugh. But I'm not changing anything about you. That's when you know, like, oh, maybe I'm doing something wrong. If he just repeats what I say and people laugh at it.
I agree. I think that's when it came out, everybody, absolutely everybody, including like my parents, were thrilled about it. And because they're like, oh, someone is making in the States a parody of you. You should feel special. And they're honestly, like, they authentically felt that way.
When Icy Mike does a parody of you, that means you're on.
Exactly. So everybody was, and everybody had a good, honest laugh. And I think the smart people got it the right way. The only part where I was a bit like, because I saw it coming, I was like, damn, people who hate me will use this against me. And there's some comments where like, hey, they're laughing at you, and somebody's like, no, they're laughing with you. But those people, I was like, fuck you assholes, you're too stupid to get it. So that was the only part I was like,
they didn't read between the lines. They didn't realize, you know, that actually the subject of that video, you're on my team. You're on my team during that whole, they can't connect those dots. They're like, haha, yeah, Rokas is a doofus, you know? And I'm like, no, the Rokas that went in to go try Aikido on an MMA guy thinking that, oh yeah, I'll do pretty good. That was a doofus thing to think. And I thought the same thing. And there's so many of us that thought that we're like, yeah, I know this MMA stuff's pretty tough, but I think I'll be all right. And it's like, oh my God, this guy can put me on the ground anytime he wants to. I can do nothing about it. But I put a lot of work. That's actually, out of all the ones I've done, I put maybe the Ryan Hoover Eli Knight one, I put more work, like actual like production and physical work into. But that one I put the most thought into, and that's still to date. That was my most fun to film, that one. But I put a lot of thought into that. I'm sure when you watch it, you see little things. There's so many little things that we did in that one. Like I got one of my students for Kai. He's actually from Uzbekistan. And when I was trying to get him to do his lines, I kept having to tell him to be more like this. So I was like, more like, bring it down more, because the guy that you did it with was so like low energy. He's like, yeah, maybe. I was like, no, less energy, Rokas, less energy.
I think parody, that's what parody is about. It's about, that's the English word, hyperbolizing. It's just like, just making things.
Turning it way up till it's ridiculous, you know.
But how did that come about? Like a short story, like how did that inspiration came for you? Did you do parodies already before, or was
I done Master Wong? I did Master Wong and Ramsey Dewey was the first one, and that was just sort of like I'd always done a Master Wong impression just because I thought it's just funny, it's just fun to do. I never thought about doing it in a video, and I hadn't quite gone full on trying to make comedy on my channel at that point. And Master Wong and Ramsey Dewey had their thing, you know, where they like were going back and forth at each other in videos. And I was like, man, I could do a Master Wong. Ramsey Dewey's super easy. And actually, in hindsight, I have a much better Ramsey Dewey now. I've like perfected Ramsey Dewey now, which hopefully we'll get to see again. But I was like, I could probably do that. And all I was doing was just trying to insert myself into that algorithmic flow and just pop up in some searches and maybe bring some people over to my channel and maybe give some people some laughs. And it was so well received, and people were like, you know, you need to do more of that. And I was like, who could I do? Who could I do? And you made a video. I want to say you were reacting to a Lenny Sly video. I say you posted I'll tell you exactly what happened. You made a reaction video to that Aikido match. There was one particular Aikido match that circulated where a guy hit a beautiful throw in the Aikido match. And you guys did a breakdown on that one. And I was doing a breakdown on that one. I was like, well, fuck, and I scrapped that. And then you did a reaction to Lenny Sly, and I was like, bingo, I can use the content from my reaction to that. You know, I ended up using it in the sequel video. And I just thought maybe you and Lenny Sly were about to go back and forth with some video responses to each other. And again, I was just trying to insinuate myself and be the little disruptor and maybe instigate some shit, maybe soak up some of those views and maybe win over some viewers. But that was so much fun to do. That's when I realized, hey, I just enjoy doing this. It's funny. So I did a few more. I did Jesse. I did Ryan Hoover, Eli Knight. I did Quan Kicker. Quan Kicker didn't get the love because he hasn't been as active recently, you know. So it didn't pop as much, but I actually think that one was one of my best impressions. My impression of you is ridiculous. People would comment and be like, oh my God, he nailed it. And I'm like, no, I didn't. It's just funny. If you put us side by side, you'd be like, that's not even close. But because you're watching it and it's funny, it's like, oh my God, he sounds exactly like him. I'm like, no, I don't sound exactly like him.
I think what you got precisely there, or precisely, well, I mean, close enough, was the vibe, you know, because I was very much the calm, peaceful, doesn't matter what happens, I still present, you know, express love. And I think that's where people are like, you got it. So
when you do impressions, not that I'm a professional at comedy or impressions, I've just observed, you just have to get little things right and for it to click with people. Like when I do you and I say, like the word word. I don't say word, I say word. Like I just push it out the side of my mouth a little bit and it kind of sounds like you. And people are like, oh my God, this sounds exactly like him, you know? But they're not that good. My only ones that are good, Quan Kicker I think was pretty accurate. And when I did Ryan Hoover, that was easy because he's from the same region that I'm from. So I'm around his accent all the time. And we kind of look alike and sound alike anyway. So.
And a very quick one to ask. So did you do any acting or something? Because you got a lot of praise for that, for your ability to impersonate. And I wouldn't be able to do that by any means myself. So how did that work?
I actually always wanted to be an actor and never really tried because I figured I sucked at it. Which it's sort of funny. It's like, oh man, I missed your calling, but it's also sort of sad. But it's also, I try to tell people that. So it's like, hey, if you kind of want to do something, go do that thing. I lived at the beach now. And I remember all growing up, I was like, man, I want to live in Myrtle Beach. Man, I want to live in Myrtle Beach. We come here 3 or 4 times a year, every year. I was like, man, I want to live there. And I just never did, you know? And then I was 30 and I was like, I met a girl down here and I was like, I'm going to move to the beach. And it was awesome. And I should have done it 10 years earlier, you know? Acting, I was like, man, I would love to be an actor, but I suck at acting. I just assumed I sucked at acting. I didn't get that information from anywhere. I took like 1 year of drama in high school, and I just didn't feel like I was good. People laughed when I did stuff, but I didn't think I was good enough. I was like, no, I'm not good enough. I didn't play soccer because I thought I wouldn't be good enough. And then when I play soccer now with friends just at the park or whatever, like, hey, man, did you play soccer? I'm like, no. They're like, oh, you'd have been good. You know, there's just so many things that I just never tried. And that's one thing that I always try to tell people to do. I'm like, do it. You want to close your dojo and move to America and be an MMA fighter? That sounds stupid and ridiculous and like a pipe dream, but do it. Do it. What do you got to lose? Because we only get one go. You only get one go at life. So yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. Because of all that, I actually have an account on Backstage Casting now, and I watch casting calls and I look at roles that I think would be right for me. And there was actually a couple coming up, and then this happened. And but that's something I wouldn't mind doing. I kind of would like to try it now, at least even if I just do student films or something like that. I think I would enjoy it.
Nice. That was some hidden talent coming into yeah. The exposure, cool. Well, one more thing I wanted to ask in general. So we kind of moved through your martial arts journey, and looking further down, you mentioned you want
You
to
should
beat me
get
down in 2 months. Sorry.
you should get a cash register effect, sound effect, and whenever you say the words martial arts journey, you should click it.
Yeah, I should also put like a logo on the video somewhere. Anyway,
If that in our channel, that's what we would do. Every time we say the name of the channel, we like do one of these numbers here. You know.
smart. That's
Tell us
branding.
more about your martial arts journey. Boom.
That's branding.
Yeah.
But it's funny. It's a quick side note, but I was surprised by how many people use that term, because that was a name actually I didn't come up. A friend of mine suggested it, and I was just like, "Oh, this is such an awesome." Initially, the idea was my martial arts journey. I was like, Maya, I don't like the Maya. It's just like it's a universal martial arts journey. And then I put it up, and people said the same thing. Yeah, and
it's borderline. Like when people say fitness journey, I'm always like, oh, that's so corny. That's so corny when they say fitness journey. It's not complicated. Fitness is not complicated. Martial arts is, and it is a journey.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's brilliant branding.
But for me, it was surprising. Like these days, I get to sit down with some UFC guys or pro fighter guys, and some of them even don't know my channel. They don't know the brand, but then they're like, "Well, in my martial arts journey," I'm like, "Damn!" So it just sounds like it's something that does come up in people when they consider.
Most people in martial arts, if they're any good, if you're any good at all as a martial artist, it was a journey. You know, if your martial arts is complete, even somewhat complete, if it's even 25% complete, you had to go on a journey. If you started some shit when you were 12 years old, if you started some shit when you were 11 years old, and because your mom put you in something so you would stop getting your ass kicked all the time, and then you just did that thing forever, you didn't have a journey, and you're probably not that great a martial artist, because you never found out anything different. You had one guy in a strip mall somewhere teaching you the same shit for 20 years, and you never went on any kind of journey, and that was it. Because it is a journey. It's not a destination. It's not a one-stop shop. It's like, oh, even if you were a wrestler, right? And you were an awesome wrestler. Wrestling's a martial art. You wrestled all through high school. You wrestled all through college. And then you're like, man, I want to go in the UFC. And you get punched in the face one time. And you're like, oh, my God. Right? Now you're on a journey. You got to go find some shit out. I got to go find out, A, how to not get punched in the face so much. And I got to find out, B, when I get punched in the face, how not to freak out. That's the journey.
I agree. So, in regards to your martial arts journey, or just in general, your gym, your career, your YouTube, you said you want to surpass me. You want to beat down that 100,000 before me. I think tough work. I mean, 2 months. That's short time.
Yeah, I slowed down. I was like, oh man, I was like burning through it. All my YouTuber friends, like I passed Santiago and I passed Sergio, and I was like, yeah, you know, you got here I go. And I was like, Rokas is next. I'm gonna pass him. And then I slowed down. And you're so close. You're gonna get that silver play button, man. You know, it's well deserved. You've helped a lot of people. You've helped a lot more people than you might have an idea, but I think whatever your idea of how many people you've actually reached and helped. There's some people who watch just because they just enjoy martial arts content on YouTube, whatever their martial art is. And there's some people that watch because there's people that watch us because they hate us and they want to see us fail. I think you have an idea of how many people you've actually helped in a meaningful way. And I think that that's not even 10%. Like whatever's in your mind. And even when you say, yeah, it's probably more than I think that you can't fathom. Because I can tell you, even me personally, watching that video, I was like, shit. It like really, someone made fun of me because I made a comment on my video. I was like, Rokas created probably the single most important piece of YouTube martial arts content ever and gets shit for it. And I think that statement is true. I think that I really believe that. That's not lip service or because I'm on your show. I said that before. I said that in the comments like before I ever even met you. I think that video is the ultimate. You were so far ahead of the time. People are still doing that shit now. Guys are still walking into MMA gyms and be like, hey, I want to try my shit out. Oh God, it doesn't work. They're still doing that now. And you did that. How many years ago was that?
I think it's probably closing into 3 years now, or it might have been. I lost track, but few years definitely. Yeah.
There's videos that are bigger. There's videos that are tighter, produced tighter, and edited tighter. And there's videos that have more views, and there's videos that made people more money. But as far as being important and what martial arts is and what martial arts on the internet is, that video sums it all up. If I had to show somebody one video, internet martial arts, go, I'd be like, this is the video.
Thanks. I appreciate saying that. Well, what about you? So what's next for you? What's the vision?
Well,
what's the big plan? What's the big picture?
I was supposed to be focused on grappling this year. I actually made my New Year's resolution to get my blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, finally, after 8 years of training. I was going to actually start showing up in the gi to class all the time. And then my ankle got hurt, and then this happened, and that doesn't look like it's going to happen. But once I get better, right now my goal is I'm going to perfect my jab and perfect my kicks. I want to make my kicks look prettier. I want to make my jab look sharper. I actually have pretty bad nerve damage along my left side, so I actually abandoned the jab a long time ago in favor of a strong right hand, which was a mistake. I should have, because I'm not good. I'm not good at it, so I'm not going to do it. Well, now I'm forced to. So I'm going to perfect the jab, perfect kicks, and once this is healed, focus on my wrestling and grappling. And as far as YouTube, I want to start traveling. I want to start upping the value and like going out and finding things out and bringing it back to people. I want to start working with bigger, better martial artists, and basically what you're doing, like going out and seeking that truth and bringing and packaging it to something that a guy can consume in 5 to 10 minutes of his time. That he can't make the trip. He can't make the trip to Thailand, or he can't make the trip to Ireland, or he can't make the trip. I want to do all that. I want to do a seminar tour. I want to do a seminar tour so bad. And I was booking some things. I had a few gyms set up, and then this just derailed everything. But next fall, maybe. This is about a 1-year recovery process. So, yeah. What about you? What are you about to do besides this fight?
It's interesting because I was about to say like, oh damn, I need to say to my plan so you wouldn't think that I was like, oh, that sounds good. The thing is, I thought about something similar. I'm sure we'll have different deliveries, but probably come back for a couple of months, just slow down a little bit. I mean, it's the last couple of years were just crazy, and I'm bouncing.
Home is back home where? Where's
Lithuania,
home?
my country.
Lithuania.
Yeah. So just kind of chill a little bit, probably do some video essays or some YouTube content, but slow things down, because for the last couple of years I was just bouncing from one big thing to the other, like Aikido in May, the YouTube journey, then closing the dojo, then the States, now Ireland, and I realized I need to give some space to myself. But after that, I'm thinking about upping up the quality as well, and probably visiting some exceptional people and just making these whole stories about my journey, meeting with them, and exposing some truth. So a little bit similar to what you said, but I'm sure the delivery will be different. So
yeah, I'm sure our delivery will be very different, Rokas.
You think so? Yeah. But
I'll tell your viewers. I share a lot of beliefs and a lot of principles and values. I hold a lot of ones that are very similar to Rokas, except I swear more and I get hurt a lot more. So if you would like just very similar values and mindset, but with swearing and injury, that's what my channel is.
Well, also too, there's a difference. Like something that I realized, like when I was trying to reinvent Aikido, I realized I'm not the right guy, because I was not far down the path of effective martial arts whatsoever. I'm still, like, even these days, they're like, oh, you should come back to Aikido, or like, my audience, or they're like, oh, you should open a gym. I'm like, Me, I'm still barely getting the hang of what the heck is this. I mean, despite the
Yeah.
fact that I'm training with pro guys, I'm like, there's so much I don't know and have a clue about. Like, but you know, you've been on the streets, you've been your journey already is on a very different stage. So whatever we can deliver through our traveling or journeys is different.
I want you to come here because I want to coach your kicking. I want you to come here and I'll show you. In fact, I made a video. It's about I think we might have chatted a little bit about the 90% kick versus the 100% kick. I don't know if I've ever talked to you about that. I made a video on it soon after our last Facebook conversation. I was like, you got me thinking. I was like, where's the last little piece of the puzzle for that kick? I made a video on it. But yeah, I was like, man, I want Rokas here making content. I think that would be awesome content. You coming here and us trying to wrist lock each other and maybe working on some kicks and stuff.
Yeah, actually, I thought about doing this off record. Usually I'm like, after I end the talk, I'm like, hey, you know what? But since we're both on YouTube, you are, without me having said that. Oh, although we had that discussion, I said that I want to
Let's
come.
talk about it.
But
I got a place for you to stay, man.
I know.
Come on,
I know.
Yeah.
No, but you're actually visiting you is definitely on my top of the list. So actually,
it's beautiful here.
I know. I trust you. The thing is, I screwed up. You know what's an ESTA? Like, it's an easy way to get for Europeans into the States, and I screwed up mine by a very silly reason. But so I need a proper visa to come down, which is harder to get and takes more time and is more expensive. But anyway, I'm sure I can
Even
pull it off.
for like just a vacation?
Sorry?
Even just a visit?
Yeah, in the past, there's a different way, which I fucked up, and I cannot use it anymore. That is very simple. Now I'm like, if I want to do a trip to the States, I will have to really plan it. But planning is not a bad thing. So, but I'm thinking next year, somewhere around springtime, I give like 90% that I could come down. So
cool, man. Well, you can teach a seminar on
on how to get beaten up by an MMA guy
and then get double legged repeatedly.
I'm good at that. Yeah.
I was an expert at that for a long time. I still, and you know what's funny? I think this is fitting. I know we're wrapping up here, but for any of your viewers, this is important. I think particularly for your viewers, and I try to tell it to my viewers all the time. The stuff that I was doing in Kuksuan, wrist locks, joint locks, standing joint locks against compliant demo partners, karate style kicking, snap kicks, side kicks, snapping style roundhouse kicks. It doesn't not work. I'm not saying that if you bend someone's wrist the wrong way, it won't break. It will. I get shit. I'm one of those dirty wrist lockers at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. A guy will double leg me, and I'll end up getting him in my guard, and I'll sync up a little wrist lock, and I know how the wrist works. That's one thing that came from that is I do understand which way to turn the wrist. And I've had higher level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys who were just mauling me, but I snuck in some stupid little wrist lock that not only did they not know it, but they just tapped because they like, I don't know how to get out of it or which way, I've never seen that. Like, we don't do that. So you got me. The snap kicks, side kicks, things like that. I do kickboxing now. It looks a lot like Dutch style kickboxing and, maybe some Muay Thai flavored kickboxing, but every once in a while I'll put a front snap kick up the middle. Your karate and your taekwondo and your aikido and your hapkido and even your tai chi, all that stuff that sometimes gets a bad rap from, the MMA gym bros. When you decide to go on that journey and go try something else, go with the empty cup, go with the beginner's mindset. Don't go and be like, well, I'm going to try to do my Aikido in this wrestling class, or I'm going to try to do my karate in this Muay Thai class. Do the shit that they're teaching and only the shit they're teaching and do it the way they're teaching it. Do it for many years and your Aikido will come back. Your karate will come back. You'll be doing some kickboxing rounds and you see a spinning back kick, or you'll see you'll miss a roundhouse kick and say, man, side kick here would be good. And you already know how to do it. And there'll be guys who are probably better fighters than you and probably have more accolades and more glory and have won more and fought in the UFC, Clifton Davis, prime example. Clifton Davis is a Kyokushin and Taekwondo black belt. He's a pretty good regional professional mixed martial artist. When the UFC guys come through and we've trained with them and do sparring, they're picking his brain afterwards. Like, man, some of those kicks you were doing were like really crazy. to him, they're normal. To you karate guys, they're normal. You know, you Aikido guys, you know intimately which way the wrist bends and which way it does not. All you have to do is approach the wrestling and the grappling and the footwork with the empty cup, and then apply that to your martial art. You know, that would be my message for any traditional martial artists thinking about branching out. Go with the empty cup, absorb as much as you can, and then you know, if you have an empty cup, fill it up with wrestling, and you may have a full cup's worth of Aikido, and you pour them together, you'll be overflowing.
Yeah, I'm with you here, and people are impatient, and oftentimes they're like, so when we're gonna see some Aikido? They were like, some of them are expecting to see Aikido in my first fight. I'm like, there's already so much chaos. It's like, forget about that.
You're trying to sit and keep your hands up. You get punched in the face for real.
Right. But I'm thinking like I do think it probably will happen. We'll finish the person, but that when I will get to that level where I will dominate some of the guys, and I could like the thing is I'm training with much higher level guys than I am, so I am just learning how not to get smashed as bad. But if I would jump in a beginner's jiu-jitsu class, I'd probably be like, I have not that much to do. You know, I could let's look at the wrist locks here, or let's
roll with some white belts. Yeah, roll with some white belts and let them get position and try to see about wrist locks from bad positions, and it'll come back to, and you'll be further ahead if you go to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. You went to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class and they were doing wrist locks that day, and the guy next to you didn't have all that Aikido. You're going to be one up in that aspect. The problem isn't with the techniques necessarily. You know, a lot of people say it's not the art, it's the practitioner. I say, no, it's not the techniques, it's the art. You know, they spend a disproportionate amount of time on something. Hand trapping. I said before, I'm a whiz at hand trapping and parrying. So these Wing Chun guys that are super good at it and spend all this time doing that, you're talking about spending that much time on something that happens like this. Like we're at range, we're pawing the jab, and then we're clinched. For a moment in between, you get a chance to trap 1 or 2 times, but you spent your whole martial arts career focused on that little tiny part. All right. So there's things from it that are of value, but you just got to be economical about your training time.
Absolutely. I agree. It's a great point. So knowing that the time is running out, the very last one, 5 years later, 5 years ahead, let's say for some reason, you know, YouTube falls apart or whatever, or you decide like, okay, I did my job with my YouTube channel, and you leave it as it is, and people look back at it and they say, well, you know, I see Mike, he did this, like that's what he gave to us as the audience. What would be the ideal thing that you'd wish, like at the end, not this, well, you know, down the road, somewhere years later, that people would think about your channel? Like what was the main value? What's the main value you want to make sure that it will have given?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a Rokas. Because if you'd have just asked me, are you proud of your work? I'd be like, yes, I'm very proud. I have earlier stuff that wasn't great. You know, we all have stuff that doesn't hold up, but for the most part, what we're doing now, I'm really proud of it. But when you frame it like when you're not doing it anymore, when it's a record, when it's unearthed in a time capsule, what will people say about it? That makes me less proud. You know, I mean, I'm proud of my work, but it makes me less like, no, I'm not done. You know, I feel like right in the moment before you ask the question, I'd be like, I can just do this and just do this, but on a bigger scale, bigger scale. But that's not good enough now. So now I'm like questioning. I would say right now they'd say, well, he gave blood, sweat, and tears for it. You know, there's like I put my skin in the game, both with Street Beefs, which you don't even know what that is. Go down that rabbit hole. Hey, by the way, you said you don't watch a lot of YouTube. If you go look at Street Beefs, you'll be watching a lot of YouTube, because that's a deep rabbit hole. I've shed blood and sweat, and I actually put my ass on the line, much like you, for the stuff that I'm saying. But it makes me, now I hope to get more. I want to say that I was helpful to people, that I provided value to people, but I guess I haven't found my thing yet. I mean, making people laugh is cool, but when they look back at martial arts journey, there's the Aikido versus MMA video, and then whatever your last video is. And that's a very clear, like, he went from this to this. That's his channel. But I don't know that I have that clear cut story, like a singular story.
What about a message instead of a story? Would you say there's a central message that you want to make sure it gets delivered?
Yeah, I would say it would be efficient with your time and energy, you know, be grateful for the time and energy that you have to devote to these things. My family is a big part of my channel. They're featured really heavily. My kids are always in there. And I try to always be, I started out super negative. And as you know from YouTube, it's very easy to get caught in that trap of being very negative and like talking shit about this or talking shit about that, which I still do, but I used to do it very personally. Like the street beef stuff all started because I was on the internet talking shit, bad shit about individuals, like saying, hey, you suck, and now let's fight. But trying to be positive and grateful, but also skeptical. So I guess the overall message would be to just like test yourself, push yourself, test your limits, push your boundaries. And when you hear things and see things, you know, approach it scientifically. Like, let's really try to get to the heart of the matter, not what we feel, but you know, what it actually is. That would be the message. But now you've got me all like in an existential crisis because I don't know that I'm
sorry
all the time. I mean, I like having fun. I'm going to continue to have fun and do the comedy. But now I need to get on it, man.
Damn it. To be honest, I'm not in an exact situation, but in a bit of a similar situation because like I know my second fight is coming down, and that's one of the reasons why I want to take a couple of months off. Like I will produce content, but I won't be engaged in the big story of, you know, now I'm here and I'm doing this, because I want to take a step back and decide like what's the next big thing I want to get, what I want to leave behind. Sorry?
Do you love fighting?
If I love fighting, it's a thing I question. I keep questioning myself, and I'll see how the second fight feels. But to be honest, I feel like the more
winning. You're gonna love winning, but do you love fighting?
I really love training. I definitely like training a lot. Right, but then
I think a lot of guys that do YouTube are in that similar boat. You look at like a guy like Shane Faison or a guy like Quan Kicker, who are obviously very talented martial artists, but don't have that deep, long record, and they clearly know what they're doing. They're clearly proficient, and they've fought, but they're not like, why aren't they in the UFC? They're really good. Why aren't they at a high-level MMA, at least regional show? I think it comes from a lot of us that do stuff like this. I don't think we like, there's dudes that are like, I love fighting. I love punching dudes in the face, and I don't care about getting punched in the face. I like it. I like winning. I don't know that I love getting punched in the face, and I don't know that I love punching people in the face. I've just never had that gene.
Me too. And again, love training, love sparring, but the fighting itself, I'm like, and at the same time, I want my life to be, as you said, like efficient. I want to push out as much as I can for my life. And I know that I do not have the mindset of a champion. Like I was digging down and trying to figure out what champions are made of.
That's so mature for you to say, because I agree. I feel the same way. Like I'm not that guy. No. I'll train hard. I don't take, dude, when I go in the fight team I train with, it's all professional fighters in their early 20s. If I can hang with them, I'll hang with them. I don't sit out rounds. They'll be like, damn, old man, you're still ready to go. I'm like, let's go again. But when it comes time to go like fight, and like some guy's going to put me in a Kimura and really break my arm, like I'm not willing to die for this shit. You know, like I don't feel that way. These guys would.
Not exactly. And that's how I feel too. I'm like, I know that I will not become the best fighter. And so why pursue necessarily a path where I will not provide something exceptionally different? And so the question then naturally is, so what can I provide? And a lot of the UFC guys, like even like I'm surprised to see some of the bigger, even big names on the UFC card, their YouTube channels barely exist. You know, maybe they're big on Instagram because they have followers, but they don't know how it works, and they cannot deliver the same message. Right. And so, but we do. So the question is, what can we provide?
You can help them. You know, you can expand. You know, you can. You know, in martial arts, you start learning martial arts, and then you start teaching martial arts. Then you start teaching people how to teach martial arts. Then you start, you know, and there's probably a market for guys like us that have a little bit of this to offer and a little bit of that to offer, particularly going forward in the digital age. So that's probably, I told Quan Kicker the same thing, because his channel's been, kind of dormant for a long time, but he knows so much about the YouTube game and he knows so much about martial arts. That could be a thing. We could make that industry.
Sure, absolutely. And I think I'll make this as probably my last tip, because I see we're out of time, but it's just, I trust in the, you could say, the flow of life, and that the sense, like what happened to you with your acting, like you always kind of wanted to do it, but never had the right platform or the go for it, and then suddenly you're like, just life falls into a place where you're like, oh, this actually works. And I feel like the best things are like that, and I have faith that whatever happens next, that'll fall into place. Right.
Yeah, why not? Because you're worried about like not having money for a month, like I've been poor, I've had shitty jobs. You can always go get some shit job, like regular job, punching a clock, but just go for it, man. You are the ultimate go for it story. Your story is ridiculous. That's like ridiculous. Like if you said, hey, mom, dad, I'm going to go do blank. I'm sure your parents are cool. My parents would be cool with it, but like the average person would be like, no, that's a terrible idea. And then it works out great for you. You're happier, healthier, more enlightened, you've got like catharsis, and you feel fulfilled now because you just went and did some shit that from a sensible standpoint is like a terrible idea.
Absolutely.
But
I agree.
I agree. I say we just go for it, man. Just go for it. Whatever it is, whatever ridiculous idea you think. There's teenage kids lip syncing on TikTok and becoming celebrities because they just spend all day lip syncing on TikTok. So whatever it is that you want to do, you can make your way doing that thing. Hey, what's up?
I thought you were talking to yourself.
No, I'm talking to Rokas Leonavicius.
Hello.
We're live. Go, get out of here.
Sorry.
So yeah, but no, it'll be interesting to see where the journey takes us, and it'll be great when we meet live. I'm sure it'll be a different chapter for both of us. So yeah, it's an exciting way to document that in at that moment, and then 2 years later we can look back and compare to where we are then. So it's gonna be awesome.
Absolutely.
Cool.
You be a UFC champion of the world, and I'll be on Hollywood.
Perfect. Sounds great. Well, good. So your session is there. My training is soon as well. So I think it'll be a good time to stop. But it was a pleasure. Finally, we get to talk out loud for a while because we've been in contact forever now. So it's awesome. I'm sure we'll continue.
All right. Hopefully we see you soon.
Yeah. Same here. And
how do I close this?
Sorry?
How do I close this thing? I've never used it before. I'll
close it for you. Just the very last thing. Tell the audience how to find you.
Oh, they're still here. They found me. YouTube.com/hard2hurt. It's hard, the number 2, because that makes things cooler and edgier if you put numbers and Z's and shit in there. Hurt, hard to hurt, all one word. Notice I say hard to hurt, not impossible to hurt. Basically, the channel is me, like I said, swearing and getting hurt a lot.
Perfect. I'm sure now they'll find you.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, have a good session. Thank you so much for the talk, and I'll be looking forward for the next one.
All right, man. See you later.